Good evening, everyone. I will call together this October 28th, 2021 meeting of the Temecula Public Traffic Safety Commission. And we will begin with the flag salute by Commissioner Sullivan.
Yes, I'm honored to do so. If everyone will please stand, face the flag, and state with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Carter?
Here.
Maddox?
Here.
Richardson?
Here.
And Sullivan?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, I see we have two presentations this evening, the first being an update on the Quality of Life Master Plan, the QLMP.
Can you hear me now? Oh, there we go. So this is just a quick presentation, give you an update on the Quality of Life Master Plan update. We're in process. Next slide. Patrick's controlling the slides back there. So we're updating the Quality of Life Master Plan, which is going to serve as the foundation for the general plan. And if you're familiar with that document, there's 6 core values that have been identified in the city: healthy and livable city, economic prosperity, a safe and prepared community, sustainable city, transportation mobility and connectivity, and then accountable and responsive city government. Next slide. So the idea is for the Quality of Life Master Plan as the visioning document to serve as the foundation for the general plan update. And then after we update the Quality of Life Master Plan, we're going to come back through and we'll update the general plan, which is a much more intense process, has state mandated elements and an EIR and all of that associated with it. And we'll put those elements, we'll slot them underneath the core values. So it's really serving as the organizing document for the update. Next slide. We're expecting the general plan update process to take about 5 years. We've broken it down into 4 phases. I'm not going to go into the detail of all those phases, but essentially we finished phase 1 in October. Just a couple weeks ago, we took the updates to the housing and the public safety elements. And previous to that, we had updated our traffic impact analysis guidelines to include CEQA guidelines for vehicle miles traveled. So we're now moving into phase 2. There was a little bit of overlap, and we started the QLMP update, I think it was April. Next slide. So that started with the Blue Ribbon Committee, which was appointed by the City Council on April 27th of this year. The Blue Ribbon Committee includes the General Plan Update Subcommittee, consisting of Mayor Edwards and Mayor Pro Tem Ron, and then one rep from each of the commission and boards. Your rep happens to be Commissioner Maddox. And then we have 16 at-large members on that committee, so it's a pretty large committee. Next slide. And some of the representing interests, this isn't all of them, but a lot of varied interest here. We have Bike Temecula Valley Coalition, reps from the special needs community, Interfaith Council, the school district, MSJC, the hospital, Visit Temecula Valley, the chamber, Camp Pendleton, local businesses, Habitat for Humanity, SWAG, which is the social work action group. They help with the homeless. So it's a very varied group. Next slide. So the meetings we've had so far, we've had a workshop and we've had a couple of the Blue Ribbon Committee or BRC meetings. The first was back in August, which was just introductions, background on the document and the process for the update. There was a community survey that was conducted for the City Council, the True North survey. Those results were presented, and then we looked at future trends and drivers of change. And then at the second meeting, just a couple weeks ago, we went over 2 of the core values, healthy and livable city and economic prosperity. And then our next meeting is November 18th. And we're actually planning to discuss 3 of the 6 elements at that meeting. Next slide. We've started our public outreach. In addition to the Blue Ribbon Committee meetings, we're doing another track of public outreach. We've branded You can see the logo in the center there, the Temecula Quality of Life Master Plan, the QLMP logo. We have a website dedicated to this process. And if you go to the website, I provided the cards at the dais. You can go to the website, there's the document. You can view all of the meetings. They were recorded. You can watch the videos. You can take a look at a summary of the community survey results. There's a feedback button. You can sign up for email notifications, and then we're also going to be doing another questionnaire specific to the Quality of Life Master Plan. That's coming soon. Next slide. Can you click 4 more times? So some of our goals are to facilitate a community-driven approach to updating the QLMP. We want to solicit input from stakeholders across all age groups, cultures, and interests. We want to focus on connecting with hard-to-reach groups that have not traditionally participated in the planning process. And then we want to provide a comprehensive and transparent planning process. Next slide. And some of our community engagement is, as I mentioned, we had the project branding on the website. There'll be an informational video and social media posts, the questionnaire. We're going to have what are called pop-up activities. So on Saturday, November 13th, I'll be at the farmer's market with the consultant, and people will be able to come, ask us questions, fill out the questionnaire. There's going to be other exercises they can do to give us input. There'll be a couple of community workshops. We'll do one virtually. If people aren't comfortable meeting in person, we're going to do a Zoom community workshop, and then we'll have one in person. And then I'm doing my, I guess, tour of duty, going to all the commissions and boards and providing these updates. And then we're also adding, we're calling it a high school curriculum module. Some of the feedback we got was we need to engage youth, especially high school students, so we're going to work with some of the AP government teachers, work with them to engage some of those students and get some of their feedback. Next slide. That's my update. So with that, I'd just like to answer any questions. If you have any comments or suggestions, we'd be happy to hear them.
One question on the Blue Ribbon Committee meetings. Is that open to the public or on Zoom or something where they can watch virtually or anything?
Those are open to the public. They're notice meetings. Those are working meetings, so it's consultant-driven, working with the Blue Ribbon Committee, but members of the public are welcome to attend those meetings. They are not broadcast via Zoom, but they are recorded and you can watch them after. Mm-hmm.
Brad, anything? No questions. I just had a couple questions. You mentioned the at-large members in the community. Are those one and the same, that those community people you listed, the groups, are those the at-large members or representatives from those groups?
Those are the interests that they represent.
Okay.
There's a list of the actual members on the website. You can take a look at who the reps are.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Also, you mentioned the outreach. Are the QLMP or general plan updates, do they go through the formal public hearing cycle that we see city council engage in? Or are they not required to go through that?
So the QLMP document is a visioning document. There's no state requirement to do that. That's specific to the city. However, those meetings are to be noticed and open to the public. When we do bring this to the city council at the end, we're going to bring it to all the commissions and the board so they can take a look. Just because it's the right thing to do, but it's not state mandated that we have a public hearing. The general plan has a very specific process with regard to noticing and public hearings and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
but it will be a
I was
public.
asking to the first thing you said, which was, is there a state requirement to go through the formal public hearing process? And what I heard you say is there's really not, but you're going to do that diligence as a matter of just good business.
Yeah, we're going to do that as part of the Quality of Life Master Plan
Very
update.
good. I guess my final question would be, how much do we expect it to change? Are these tweaks, or is it like closer to a rewrite for where we are as a city now?
It's a good question. We use the document internally, city staff. whenever we propose something in the operating budget or the CIP, it has to be consistent with the quality of life master plan. And we've accomplished so many things on the list. There's kind of a master list of projects and other things that it was just time to update. So in terms of the future list, it's going to expand and that will change significantly. I don't think the core values are going to change that much, but I do think the indicators that we measure our progress of achieving those goals will change a bit. So, and we may end up adding a seventh core value. Part of the direction we received from City Council was to add a seventh core value regarding equity.
Fair enough. That was my next question. So, very good. Anything?
Yeah, just some comments
Please.
to elaborate on, I guess, some of the changes. I think probably the most prevalent theme that's been coming up in these meetings has been the need to align our housing opportunities with the job opportunities in the valley. And so, of course, we have the new housing element that is tackling half of that equation with its focus on missing middle housing. But I think, my takeaway from the meeting so far is that, maybe our biggest challenge as a commission is going to be how we provide adequate transportation to all these new kinds of neighborhoods that we're going to be building. As we look to the future into developing uptown Temecula and adding attainable housing in the form of higher density housing. So, we're going to have to get creative about how we sort of weave together, walkable, bikeable, and drivable neighborhoods. As we provide not just transportation, but really mobility to our incoming residents while still honoring the expectations and supporting the lifestyles of our existing residents. But luckily, our city is really, really well positioned to take on these issues as we plan out our next steps. And I think that's a credit to you and all of our city planners who have kept us on the right track as we keep the long-term vision in mind.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Fair enough. I think to that point, if I can comment on your comments, one of the things is, to look at projects that are envisioned in a way to where not everything you do requires mobility, right? Things are close enough to be walkable, bikeable, and not require car trips. And I know that's part of what I like about the new, the rural park communities. They have a lot of amenities right there for the residents that aren't going to, put them in a car for every single thing they do in their life. So I like to see that component as well. So
Good. You can ask your public works staff. I work pretty closely with them. We're working on a big loop around the city and have a number of projects we'll be back to talk to you about.
wonderful. Thank you.
One other quick one. You had mentioned in your presentation about the EIR. How long is it usually to get an EIR approved? Or is it something different than what we've had in the past?
So a programmatic EIR for a general plan, that process takes about 2 to 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So the process of, you need a project description first, and then takes about a year to get through that EIR process. I wish it was faster, but it's not.
Thank you so much for your report.
All right, thanks for having me.
Our next presentation is on the Local Roadway Safety Plan, the LRSP. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman Richardson, commissioners, and city staff. Thanks for the opportunity today to provide an update on the city's local road safety plan. I'm Steve Manganello. I'm with a firm called STC Traffic. We've been supporting City Engineering Public Works with some of their traffic engineering needs, including helping them develop this plan. Just to start off, I'm going to provide a little background on what is a local roadway safety plan, talk a little bit about some of the preliminary findings from our collision analysis, and then next steps. We are at a preliminary phase at this point, but we did want to come to you as one of our safety partners to get some initial feedback. So with that, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So local road safety plans provide a framework for local agencies to systematically identify and analyze roadway safety issues and prioritize locations for improvements. This is accomplished by performing a comprehensive analysis of traffic collisions, identifying safety countermeasures, and collaborating with local safety partners representing the 5 E's of traffic safety, which are engineering, enforcement, education, emergency services, and emerging technologies. Having an approved LRSP is now a formal requirement for local agencies to apply for future rounds of Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funding, also known as HCIP. This is notable as the city has done an excellent job securing HCIP grant funds for a variety of traffic safety projects over the years, and they want to have the ability to continue to apply and pull in those funds to use in the community in the future. Next slide. So as it relates to the collision analysis, we were able to obtain collision data from a variety of sources, including the statewide integrated traffic record system known as SWITRS, California Berkeley's transportation injury mapping system known as TIMS, and also working with the city to obtain data from their local collision record system. We were able to cross-reference the data and then geocode the collisions using GIS to create maps like you see today, so we have a more of a spatially, visual representation of the different types of collisions and where they are located throughout the city. Without getting into too much detail, it is a fairly comprehensive process. You can see we're able to use 5 years of the most recent data from 2016 to 2020, but we look at things such as collision type, which would be whether it was a broadside, rear end, head-on collision. What was the primary collision factor? Was it a right-of-way violation? Was it a DUI? Was it a failure to use a turn signal? These all tie to the California Vehicle Code, which local law enforcement is very familiar with. Who was involved in the collision? Was it a collision between two vehicles? Was a pedestrian involved, a bicyclist? And then as you can see here, what was the severity? Was there a fatality? Was there an injury, or was it a property damage only collision? So these are all important to develop trends and help the city start to prioritize where the issues are, how the accidents are occurring, and then ultimately to work with our safety partners to develop safety countermeasures and develop projects. Next slide. So the next step was to use a criteria known as equivalent property damage only scoring, also known as EPDO. That's the methodology that is used through the Highway Safety Manual. We applied this methodology to identify priority locations. You'll see on the next several slides that we grouped them into 3 different categories: signalized intersections, unsignalized intersections, and roadway segments. The key factors with this EPDO scoring is it not only considers the quantity of collisions at each location, but also the severity. So the more severe the collision, the higher weighting factor it receives, which generally results in a higher ranking. So using this slide as an example, for signalized intersections, you could see that the highest ranked intersections are presented here based on those factors, and any intersection that had a score of 206.9 or greater is on this list, and you can see the map as far as where they're located. One thing to note, as you're looking at like Temecula Parkway, for example, the nice part about geocoding using GIS is you could start to see from a corridor perspective where these collisions are occurring. So you're not just confined to trying to do spot improvements, but you can look at a holistic, systemic, or corridor-wide approach to developing safety improvement projects. Next slide. And this is another example of being able to prioritize locations for unsignalized intersections. Next slide. And also, again, roadway segments. Next. This is just an example of our local road safety plan stakeholder packet that we present to our safety partners. To date, we've had an opportunity to work with the city engineering team to get some feedback. We've also met with representatives from city fire and county sheriff. And as we start to get more feedback from them, we'll be incorporating that into the report and into the analysis. You know, one of the key elements of this is not only getting feedback on the priority locations that you just saw, but also using, you know, staff's and the community's intimate knowledge of the local roadway system to help us identify locations that maybe don't have much of a collision history or have a lower rate of collisions, but are known to have safety issues. Maybe there's a lot of near misses, maybe there's an issue with people jaywalking, maybe it's near a school or a park and there's some concerns there. So it's a great way to supplement the collision statistical analysis with the local knowledge here in the city of Temecula. Next slide. So we talked a little bit about the stakeholder feedback summary. Nick Minicelli will be providing all the commissioners that packet. You'll have an opportunity to kind of go through it. It'll have a nice summary of the collision results, and there'll be an opportunity for you to provide some input on other locations in the city, on countermeasures, things of that nature. We've also started to work with city staff to develop a countermeasure toolbox. Just to give you some examples, when we talk about safety countermeasures, a lot of these are things you're familiar with. So at signalized intersections, perhaps putting in pedestrian countdown signal heads, upgrading the safety lighting at intersection to LED. For uncontrolled crossings, or school crossings, looking at opportunities to put in pedestrian actuated crossing systems that have flashing light bars or beacons so that drivers are more aware that a pedestrian is entering the street. And then other things that you're familiar with, such as putting in striped bike lanes or protected bike lanes along roadway segments. After we get the results from the stakeholder feedback, we finish going through the analysis and developing our safety countermeasures, then we work with staff to kind of match those countermeasures to the locations, to the corridors, based on the types of collisions that are occurring to develop projects. And really the goal is, for LRSP initially, is to develop projects that the city can then turn around and apply for HCIP funding next cycle. So that's really the initial goal here. And then ultimately all this gets packaged into a draft and then a final report that'll go to City Council for review and approval. We are on schedule to kind of wrap this up probably the first of the year, which puts the city in excellent position to have an approved plan in order to apply for the next round of funding, which is set to come out in the spring of 2022. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I've seen that some cities use an LRSP, while other cities apply for the same or maybe similar funding using a systemic safety analysis report or a Vision Zero action plan. So my question is whether we're pursuing each of these as separate but complementary documents, or if our approach is to try to condense everything that we want to accomplish into an LRSP that is singular and focused.
That's an excellent question. So the city of Temecula actually completed an SSARP not too long ago. So that was the initial kind of program, and it was very similar, where it looked at collision data, identified countermeasures. But then, at the FHWA level and at the state level, it evolved to what they're calling a local road safety plan. And really the biggest change was incorporating the 5 E's of traffic safety and the safety partners to get that additional engagement and feedback to supplement the statistical analysis. So they're two separate documents. This is kind of a follow-up to the excellent work the city did on the SSARP. And absolutely, when we talk about Vision Zero, other goals the city may have through their general plan, through their active transportation plan, you saw the quality of life management plan, a lot of those similar priorities can work their way into the local road safety plan. So it is definitely a complementary document. And it's also a living document. You know, the nice part is at the end of this project, we're going to turn over all of our databases and analysis tools so that the city on a yearly basis can go as new crash data becomes available, run new analysis, do additional outreach, and continue to refine what those locations are and what those projects are.
Excellent, that answers it, thank you.
Great.
I guess I had a couple things. So, you know, you're working with staff who have a really good idea of what's going on around the city, but, you know, we, at this commission, have citizens come with a complaint, or we receive an email that something's not right at a certain place. Is that data being included? So not just what staff says, but, you know, are we looking at the hundreds of emails we've gotten over the last 5 years or whatever to look at those as well, where there perhaps wasn't a collision, but our citizens have concerns?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and really, I think what you'll find is that the staff you have here today that work hand in hand with this commission, they have the history. They're aware of the locations that they're seeing get repeat concerns from residents. So when we meet with staff, you know, again, the statistical analysis is one thing, but the engineering, police, this commission, you're all part of the 5 E's of safety. So all that history goes from staff to us, and that really comes into play when we're getting to the point of really where do we want to put these investments, and what are the priorities. And a lot of it has to do with their intimate knowledge over the years, this commission's understanding when residents come and present that, yeah, we've had a lot of concerns at this unsignalized intersection, doesn't have an accident history. They're letting us know that so that we can work with them. And if it lends itself to a safety countermeasure that perhaps will compete well for grant funding, we can combine that with other locations and try to get those improvements made for the residents.
Right, very good. And to take it a step further as far as the public outreach, it's one thing when a citizen's concern rises to a level where they're compelled to finally write that email or come to our meeting. Are we being more proactive with the outreach? I know there's probably not time in the current cycle, but in the future to, you know, do that outreach and say there's a web form if you know, what's your worst intersection in the city, and invite people instead of just waiting for them to get to a breaking point, but invite them to give that input so we can get even more insight into what people think.
You know, I'd probably defer to city staff. You know, what I will say for this process, it is very, you know, focused on working through the safety partners. You know, obviously, there, as we mentioned, we are using feedback that staff gets from the residents and filtering that in to identify priority locations. But I would defer to staff as far as, you know, their ongoing efforts to, you know, engage the community at large and the different focus groups as it relates to traffic safety and what their concerns are.
Very good. Anything further? Patrick?
Yeah, if I could respond to that a little bit too, and I'm going to ask Nick to chime in on this too, but so you're going to be given the packet that Steve referred to so that you don't have to, you know, have all your ideas right at this moment. You'll be able to take that and look at it and then return that to us, and we'll be compiling all of those packets into the document when it's finally compiled and prepared. And then, as he mentioned, we're providing those to the public safety partners, city staff, and we're certainly welcome to input from any others in the community as well. We haven't specifically scheduled just general public sessions on this. And, I don't think we have time for this current planning process, but we can potentially look at doing that in future updates to this document as well. And let me ask Nick if he can kind of add a little bit more on the outreach process.
Yeah, so currently this is our third outreach. The first one was engineering and public works. We did a separate session where we went over everything, sent packets, got feedback back. Then we did one with police and fire. I just got a stack of police requests today. And it's stuff that's not known, like based on accidents. It's just stuff like we talked about, things we may not know. And the third one is with commissioners tonight. And hoping you guys take it back. I'll send an email tomorrow, most likely, and give you guys 3 weeks, a month to look at it, put your thoughts down. It's some homework, I'm not gonna lie. But you'll be able to add things there that we may not know, and that's important to document. And
I
then
don't recall being given this homework the past couple of years on this, but I think it's something we would all like to, I know we all talk about, here's my peeve of a place in the city, so it would be good to get that documented and at least noted in the process.
Yeah.
So we
and
appreciate that opportunity.
No problem. And the packet is self-explanatory, but if you have any questions with it, definitely reach out and we can give them more information on it.
So this is our first LSRP, or LRSP, sorry. Can't get those confused. But it'll certainly be a living document. It'll be something that we'll be working on, continuously over the years and updating and adding to. And then, as Steve was mentioning also, this will be what we refer to when we do go to apply for these future grant programs. Very good. Nothing else? Thank you, Steve.
All right,
Great
thank
report.
you.
Thanks.
All right, let's see, moving on. Public comment, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Okay, we can skip that. Then we'll advance to the consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Public Traffic Safety Commission request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. We have one item, which is approve action minutes of August 26, 2021. I have a motion.
I'll move the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner
Sullivan.
Sullivan, second by Carter.
Crater.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
and Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good. All right, so for business, we moved the first item of business is election of vice chairperson with a recommendation that we elect a vice chairperson to preside through the remainder of the 2021 calendar year. I see there's an agenda report here, but there's nothing to really present, right?
No, it's
Okay.
just a generic report.
Then I will open the floor to nominations.
I'd like to make a nomination, but as I make the nomination, I have to give a little background. I have to apologize because I've been calling this commissioner the wrong name off and on for 5 years. He goes by the nickname Skip, but because of his past affiliations, more times than not, I've called him Chip. And then I've always thought his last name was Carter, but as Matt J.R. and I learned at the State of the City address, your last name is Crater, according to the city roster. So depending on which AKA the gentleman's going by, I nominate the commissioner to my right to take office tonight.
So we have a nomination for Commissioner Carter to serve as vice chair. Discussion or a second?
Yeah, actually, I'm on the same page as you with that. As I look at the current composition of our commission with the 3 veteran commissioners and soon to be 2 newcomers, including myself and that, of course, I think now is a time for steadiness at the wheel. And when I was looking through the history of the chair and vice chair, Of course, Commissioner Sullivan, you just got done carrying the baton for us through some really tough years. And Commissioner Carter, meanwhile, has served, I think, as a dependable vice chair many times. So it would be an excellent choice in any year, and especially this year.
And will I consider that a second of the nomination?
Yeah, yes.
If there's no other nominations or discussion, we'll close the nominations.
I guess it's,
Can't stay now.
probably, I guess not, but I'm seeing that as in the past, we don't have a meeting in November, and we probably don't have anything going on in December. So I gladly take this opportunity to take this position.
One meeting. I guess you're right, it would be a one-meeting commitment. So, all right. We have a motion by Commissioner Sullivan and a second by Commissioner Maddox, and we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carter? Maddox?
You can vote for yourself.
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
And Sullivan? Aye. Thank you.
All right. Our next order of business is Red Hawk Parkway at Peppercorn Drive, geometric review, and I believe Nick has an agenda report for this.
Yes, I do. Patrick, can you share my screen? Video.
He's saying to push the button.
I'll push the video. Nothing? Technical difficulties? Go ahead.
If I can just back up a little bit, and on your last agenda item where you appointed Commissioner Carter as the vice chair, so as you noted in the agenda item, it's for the remainder of this current calendar year. So the appointment of the new commissioner, that'll take place, I believe, at the second city council meeting in November, which is the 23rd of November. And then at your meeting in January, you'll have the opportunity to appoint a new chair and vice chair for 2022.
Well, so if we can finish that discussion briefly, normally at this meeting in October, because if you see on the last page of our agenda, it says our next meeting is November 25th, which is Thanksgiving. So
Right.
normally at this meeting, we would vote to consolidate
Yes, I was
the
going to
two
bring that
into
up.
one, and I didn't see that on this agenda, which I thought it should be there.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up also, so I was assuming you wouldn't want to meet on Thanksgiving Day evening. So, and as you said, we typically consolidate the November, December meetings, and so just for your consideration, the second Thursday in December is December 9th, so that may be a good date to plan to have that last meeting of the year. And we do have a few items that we have scheduled for the
So
December.
it's not on the agenda, but we typically at the October meeting, it would be on the agenda, and we would vote to, yes, let's consolidate for December 9th, 10th, whatever it is. So can we decide that without voting it, and just, that's when it'll be?
Yes, you can do that. You can just give us that direction, and we will cancel the regular meeting of the November 25th and schedule it as a meeting, noticed meeting on December 9th, if that's what you'd like to do.
Then so directed unless there's objections. from
No
the
objections.
Okay, so directed. All right, and now I believe Nick is up.
I believe we're good now.
All right.
All right. So the first item we're going to review today is Red Hawk Parkway and Peppercorn Drive geometric review. Back in early September, we received a request from a resident to look at the existing geometries for the northbound movement on Peppercorn Drive. In existing state right now, it's a left turn lane through right and then a right turn pocket. The resident noticed a lot of backup in the left turn lane and wanted us to look into doing a left turn lane, a through left, and then one single right turn pocket. So staff, Eric and I, we performed several field visits to look into this request. In the morning, we did notice a decent amount of backup in that left turn, mainly stemming from after kids are dropped off from school, everyone is exiting that way. But we noticed that every signal cycle, no matter how long that backup was, it was clearing in one signal cycle. So we felt like, okay, there's no need to make a change here because of that. We checked the PM volumes, AM and PM peak volumes as well, and there's actually more right turning volume than the left turn. So at this point, we don't feel like there's any need to change the geometries. We feel like the signal's running okay. We will look at maybe tweaking some of the timing to tighten it up to make sure it moves a little bit quicker during those AM and PM peak periods. But at this point, we feel like no changes need to be made.
A little off topic, but similar. I drove to the intersection to check it out today. Red Hawk's in pretty rough condition. Is that scheduled in the near future for any kind of repairs?
Not that I was aware of. You're talking about the condition of the pavement,
Yeah.
the asphalt?
Yeah, the tree roots are obviously pushing up in the number one lane, and it doesn't look like it's had a slurry coat or anything in a while.
Okay, well, I can take a look and see when the latest, or when the next cycle for that
Thanks.
would be scheduled.
Anything else, gentlemen? I had a question for you, Nick. When we first looked at this intersection and did change the turn configuration, I wondered why we didn't just make that center a left or straight or right and give all three options there. And I thought, because I don't imagine we have much straight through traffic into the gated community there, and there's probably not much coming out that would create a left conflict. So that was my question. One thing we don't see, I guess, when you take a survey is, would adding left turners to that center lane block right turners in the center lane from turning right on red? One thing we don't get is how many of our right turners are going on red versus going on green. So I don't know, thoughts on that?
Absolutely, we thought about that as well. But the reason we chose not to do it is there's currently a right turn overlap. So you'd have to pull out that right turn overlap if we were to do that, because the left turn anyone sitting for that left turn would block that green arrow movement, and we didn't want to mess with that operations.
I think it goes into one lane, doesn't it, when you make a right turn there? So you have a problem with that.
Yep. So we considered, because we did think this resident's request was worthy of, it was a decent suggestion, and, if we did make the change, I'm sure it could potentially function okay, but we didn't think the gains were gonna be beneficial to put in the money to change all that.
Yeah, and I it's an interesting idea, but if that left turn lane is clearing every light cycle, then kind of what's the need, right?
Yep.
So-
And I get it, because it does back up, but
Yeah,
it does clear, so that's why we didn't think it was necessary.
fair enough. Anything else? All right, I think this was just a receive and file, so we'll move on. The next one is Valentino Way, Kuchokyu Drive, and Vale Ranch Parkway intersection control, and again, Nick.
Yes. So this one was a request by Councilman Ron to look at the intersection controls of this intersection, which is only about 700 feet away from Red Hawk Parkway and Vale Ranch, that signalized intersection there. Analysis, staff performed analysis on this to determine if intersection controls, particularly an all-way stop, would be needed at this intersection. Oops. So staff performed several field visits as well to check out the operations of the intersections, seeing if there was a queue or backup, or if it was difficult for the side street motorists to get out onto Vale Ranch Parkway. We did not notice any significant backup. The most I saw at one point was 3 cars, and they were able to get out within 20 seconds or so. So there was no issue there. We also performed a sight distance analysis just to make sure that there was clear line of sight, and there was plenty of sight distance as this graph shows. So there was no issues with visibility. We also checked the accident history. We noticed there was one accident over the past year, and it was not a significant accident. We even went back further than that to see if there was more accidents, and there was very, very minimal. But we wanted to check the accidents based on the recent striping changes along that roadway. So we just focused on 1 year, and there was only one. And that's not enough to warrant an all-way stop, one accident. As I mentioned, we didn't notice any significant queues or operational issues. So staff, I think we're looking for your vote on this, is that we recommend that there's no changes to the intersection controls at this intersection.
Anything, commissioners?
I would also just add one other note to that is this development area was actually constructed prior to it was annexed into the city. So this development all occurred while it was under county Riverside jurisdiction. We actually have intersection spacing requirements that we would, if this was being planned today, we would not allow intersections to be this close. So that's a little background as to why we have what we have.
Yeah. I guess I just had one question. I noticed when I looked at the map that this stretch of the Vail Ranch Parkway is it's true east-west. And I'm wondering, because I was at the meeting where Mayor Pro Tem Ron brought this up, and I'm wondering if, he said he had just come from witnessing a close call there. That was the story he related. And I'm wondering if the issue might have been, and do we consider when we do site evaluations, potential sun blinding, because in a true east-west, if it's an uphill, the sun can literally get right down on the pavement and be a contributor. Granted, limited time during the day, but is that something staff ever thinks about when you're doing site evaluations?
Not necessarily, it's not at the forefront, but it's, I think, something that happens at obviously every street that has an east-west, so there's really not much you can do to negate that effect.
Fair enough. I can see it being an issue trying to get out if you're literally looking into the sun and can't see the car coming. But we control a lot of things, but the sun
Can't
is not
control
one
it.
of them. Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? I think that's all we had. All right. So then we will move on. Oh, I think we need a vote here. So we will do a roll call vote to.
I'd like to
no
move that
changes.
we move the staff recommendation.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Sullivan, a second by Commissioner Carter, and roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Carter?
Aye.
Maddox?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
And Sullivan?
Aye.
Thank you.
Very good. And now we will go on to division reports, California Highway Patrol.
Hello, our statistics for September. Temecula CHP, 403 motorist services, 394 citations issued, 43 DUI arrests. 19 of those DUIs were out of collisions. 3 DUI arrests were DUI drugs. 2 fatalities during September, all non-DUI. 19 total fatalities for the year. Our child safety seat program continues to chug along. A lot of new moms and dads coming by for appointments. Our books are pretty full, so population's increasing in the area. Yeah. And Start Smart classes are also in full swing. My 16-year-old daughter attended one recently, and it was a big help for her and her friends, and from National Charity League attended as well. So doing good things there. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you for the report. We'll proceed to Fire Chief's report next.
Thank you. So for the month of August, calls for service was a total of 909. When we kind of break that down, as you can see when the slides populate here, 710 of those were medical emergencies, 16 fires of various types, as well as 69 traffic collisions. Continuing on for the month of August in our plans review and inspections, our plan shop conducted a total of 457 plan reviews, 624 construction inspections, 684 annual inspections, and then 15 of essentially face-to-face or public inquiries. Moving on into the month of September. We saw our calls dip down just a little bit to a total of 871. 632 of those were medical emergencies, 12 of those fires, and 73 being traffic collisions. Again, for the plans and inspection side of the house, we saw plan reviews at 432, which took us to 3656 for the year. Construction inspections were at 439 for the month of September, which took us for a year-to-date of 3280. Annual inspections of 505 for a total year-to-date of 5299. And then obviously the 12 public inquiries or face-to-face interaction for a total of 90. With that, that is your August and September update, and into report unless there's any questions.
No?
Just nice to not have a fire and see you here.
Well, thank you. It's been a couple months since I've been able to get back in this seat with not being out
Yeah,
somewhere,
good to
so
see you.
appreciate it.
When you're here, that's better than when you're not here. All right, and police chief's report, please.
Hello, I'm Deputy Ryan Rennick. I'm a motor officer here in town. I have September traffic statistics. We wrote a total of 934 total citations. Traffic collisions, 29 non-injury, 32 injury, 17 hit-and-run collisions with a total of 78. We had 0 fatalities in September. We had a total of 24 DUI arrests. The DUI year-to-date totals are 334, which is 2020 year-to-date was 210, so that's quite a few more than 2020. And we didn't have any checkpoints in September. That's about it. End of report. Any questions?
Yes, do you attribute the increase in DUI arrests to the Metro team in Old Town? Is that where it's happening, or it's just all over?
I believe that was a big factor. I just came from the Metro team, and Deputy Daughters, unfortunately, he got reassigned to the K-9 team, so he was getting quite a few DUIs, so that number is probably going to drop. But yes, the Metro team does get a significant amount of DUIs.
Thank you for the report.
I'm sure Deputy Daughters is going to miss doing his DUIs. He's very good at it. Yeah.
Very good. All right, and we'll do traffic engineers report.
Well, the report I wanted to give you, it's going to vary a little bit from strictly traffic. So I wanted to update the commission on an item, and it was actually a report that was given to the city council on Tuesday evening regarding a development project that kind of went below the radar a little bit, I'll call it. And Commissioner Maddox was there, so I'm sure he knows what I'm talking about. But there was a project, it's referred to as the Rancho Highlands project. It's the property on the south side of the duck pond, a big vacant property there. And it was processed as a housing project, so it's actually an apartment, a rental apartment project. Includes an affordable housing component. And because of a state law that was passed a few years ago, projects that are within what we call our affordable housing overlay zone that include this affordable component actually do not require a CEQA review and do not require any public hearings and are approved administratively, basically, which is what happened on this project. And that process is mandated by state law. As a matter of fact, it's actually even prohibited to have a hearing on a project that falls under that category. So that project has been approved. It's under construction. They've gotten all of their permits and actually started grading this week. And there's actually a component of it that does involve traffic. and it's a memorandum of understanding that we've been working on with the developer. The developer is required to construct just their frontage on Inez Road, and we've got the entire portion of that block basically between the Duck Pond and Rancho Vista that needs to be widened in order to get the 2 lanes northbound there. So the developer, per typical development standards, is only required to do their frontage. So we actually have a project in our CIP program to finish the rest of Inez Road down to Rancho Vista, and we're working on an agreement with the developer so that all that can be done at one time and as a single project with both the city and the developer participating in that. So we've got that agreement going to council at their next meeting in November. And then hopefully we need to do some environmental work to be able to do that widening because it affects a stream course there that's next to the road. So we're hoping that next year we can go through the permitting process and be able to do that widening in conjunction with that development project. But I just wanted to give you an update on that project and also the plans for doing the improvements on Inez Road. And we're hoping to be able to get that done in the near future. Yeah, any other property that's within that affordable housing overlay zone is able to go through that, call it streamlined permitting process, as long as it does include an affordable housing component to it.
So for that project specifically, before you continue, there'll be widening Inez, but not Rancho Vista, correct?
That's the plan now. Councilmember Schwank asked that we look at the possibility of doing the widening on Rancho Vista. It's a needed improvement because that is not built to its full width there. What we're hoping to be able to do, at least on the Inez portion, and potentially if we were to do Rancho Vista as well, is typically it's a requirement for development to construct their street improvements on their frontage. And since this part, the part that's for the new project, they have about a third of the frontage between the entrance to the Duck Pond and Rancho Vista, and so about 2/3 of that is just for the vacant property south of the development, and that owner of that property is not planning any development anytime soon. So that's going to be funded by the city. We're hoping to be able to set up a mechanism where they would be required to reimburse the city at a later date when they do actually develop that property. And that would be the case if we were to construct the improvements on Rancho Vista as well, is that we're hoping to be able to create a mechanism to be able to require them to at least pay for the cost of those improvements when they do develop. But as of this time, we're only planning to do the Inez portion. And that's really, I think, where we get the bigger bang for the buck because of the volume of traffic and that congestion that's on Inez now.
Yeah, I agree. I misunderstood. I thought the new development was going the whole lot, but it's only the northern portion of that.
Yeah.
So I guess my hope was that this was identified on our sidewalk list, the Rancho Vista, for a long time, so we don't see that happening with this project.
Not right away, yeah. The sidewalk project that we are actually working on in that general vicinity is the west side of Inez. So we've got a missing gap of sidewalk on the west side of Inez there, south of Tierra Vista, and that is a project that we are actually close to being able to construct that sidewalk just as a city project also. So I wanted to give you an update on that, and then...
Can I just do one follow-up? Sure. I think if it hasn't been considered, another mechanism to consider is that the developer would have to pay the costs of that lane should they later on convert it to condos or other non-affordable housing, because that could be a trick that could come up too.
Their entitlement under that affordable housing overlay zone, and I don't know all the planning laws that well, but I believe they have some obligation to retain the affordable component of the project.
Okay, good.
So, and then I just wanted to also give you an update. You know, we talked about our LRSP. That is a requirement going forward to be able to apply for the Highway Safety Improvement Program grants, which we've been successful on in the past. And one that we received a few years ago, grant, we're actually moving forward with construction on. We've awarded the construction contract and are ordering equipment, and that is to implement the upgrades to the traffic signals along the main east-west corridors on Winchester, Rancho California, and Temecula Parkway. I believe it's 43 traffic signals along those 3 corridors, replacing the controllers, communications equipment, and completing some communications links between those signals, and then implementing new coordinated timing plans on those 3 corridors as well. So we're getting ready to start on that, and hopefully we'll have that done before the middle of next year. And we talked about your next meeting, and so that concludes my report.
Very good. Is there a separate director report?
No.
No, okay, all right. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Maddox, anything?
Yes. All right. So I was excited to tell you all about a special event that's coming up next month. And I believe I have a slide for this if I got it in on time. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you to the AV team for the assist there. So this is the first annual Cycle of Hope. It's going to be a ride to end hunger, and it's presented by Community Mission of Hope and Bike Temecula Valley. This is going to go down on November 21st with 3 different bicycle courses to choose from. So we have a family fun ride that begins at 12 o'clock noon. And then earlier in the day, we have a couple of longer rides, an intermediate 18-mile and a half-century 50 miles. And I wanted to bring this event to highlight it here at our meeting for a couple of reasons. First is the cycling, active transportation aspect. So the longer rides on here are going to be going around following the Temecula Loop Trail before they head out into wine country and then come back and finish on the Loop Trail. And then all of the rides actually are going to really spotlight the Santa Gertrudis Creek Trail. So, we're going to be showing off some of the city's, beautiful new infrastructure. And then the other second element of this is what Community Mission of Hope brings with their fight against hunger. So we know that, when people aren't able to meet their basic human needs, and particularly when people are struggling with, food insecurity, sadly, that can become a public safety issue. And, we're really very blessed to have a Community Mission of Hope, working in this space in our valley for as many years as they have. And, they've been lifting people out of that cycle of desperation and getting them started on that cycle of hope. So everyone is invited to come check it out, whether you sign up for a ride or not. Everyone is welcome to join us at the soon-to-be newly named Dan Atwood Center for Hope on Enterprise Circle, November 21st. So we'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Other commissioner reports? Nothing? Nothing from the rest of us, so we will adjourn tonight's meeting to reconvene here on December 9th now. Meeting adjourned.